gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? When you were 8 and you had bad traits.
Hello everyone, this is Petty Officer Romero of Job Corps. I got a short video about law enforcement and a career in law enforcement if it's something that you're interested in. I was a sheriff's deputy for a little while. I can go into all kinds of stuff. When I got out of the military, I wanted to be a police officer. So I moved to Los Angeles and I took the test and went through the entire process. I scored on the only part, everything is pretty much pass or fail except for the oral review where you go in front of a board and they ask you questions and situations. I scored 104 out of 100 because I had 5 points for being in combat. So I have some experience with going through the process. I just got to the point that it takes like a year and a half to get on. And by the time they called me, I was already doing another job and did pretty well and got a raise. And I started thinking, do I really want to, be out at night, working night shift and getting shot at, or start a different kind of career? So I kind of chose to go in a different direction. But I do have some experience with the process and certain things about the job in general from my experience of working with police, working with military police, working with the sheriff's department, and actually having a bunch of friends who are also either highway patrolmen or police officers. For whatever reason, and probably because of my military experience, I just gravitated towards police officers, and I have tons of friends that are police officers. The first question I would always ask you if you say that you want a career in law enforcement is why? And I think one of the most simple things that I could say to you is if you're going into law enforcement for that old school reason where, and you may not realize it, but if you really search your soul, if you just want to be that guy who gets to, or girl who wants to get in the car and turn the sirens on and pull people over and think of being a police officer, kind of like it used to be, in my opinion, the old school bully kind of lean up against the car with attitude and the sunglasses and being rude. Today's modern police officer is a customer service representative, body cameras. And again, there are always bad apples, but for the most part, police officers have to deal with the public differently than they used to. It used to be a very kind of militaristic. Police departments were always considered paramilitary, basically just civilian military. But now police officers have become much more of customer service. You take a lot of abuse, a lot of emotional, mental abuse from the public because, you can't just go around and arrest people because they have a bad attitude. You can't. So at some point you have to, and generally with a good attitude, accept the criticism and the jokes and the things that people are going to say. I pay you with my tax dollars, and don't you have something better to do? Go eat some donuts. All those different things that you have to deal with, and you have to deal with it with a good attitude nowadays. It used to be you say something like that to a cop and who knows what would happen. Nowadays, it's just a different world. So when I say, why do you want to be a police officer? If you search your soul and the answer to that is not because you truly want to make a difference and help people in their lives, then you're in it for the wrong reason. You have to look at it as a police officer as kind of it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. And your lifestyle has to be one of like truly gaining something from helping people in their lives. And in addition to that, some of the things people don't really take into consideration is that you're not dealing with the best parts of society when you're a police officer. You often dealing with the people with the drug problems and people who are just, troublemakers, people who, generally speaking, you're just not going out to a bunch of calls to just well-adjusted people who just have great attitudes. You're going out to calls for people for domestic disputes, obviously much more violent crimes. And so that's going to be a part of your life. And if you don't take some sort of pride in saying that maybe I made a difference in, even if not the father that's being abusive or the mom that's doing drugs, but maybe the kid in that household that comes in and looks at you and says, man, I want to be that guy one day. There's another little thing that I once heard a police officer say to me, is that society vilifies police officers. And I'm not just talking about the political climate. I'm talking about what happens when a police officer walks into a fast food restaurant for lunch, and there happens to be some kids sitting there with their parents. What do their parents say to them? Oh, you better behave, or I'll have that police officer come get you. So the connotations to being a police officer is not officer friendly anymore. It's being kind of vilified. So the point is that it's a difficult job, and you really have to consider if it's for you. And if you look at it and say you get some type of feeling of gratification from helping people, then it's something that you should want to do. But if it's more of, I want to ride around in a police car and go fast and turn on my lights and I get to carry a gun, it's probably not the right decision. And I can't decide that for you, and no one can. But you really have to search your soul, because being a police officer, the minimum amount of stuff that you get to do or carrying a gun and drive fast is by far outweighed by the negative things that you have to deal with. And if you're not one who looks at things and says, man, I want to help somebody, and maybe you don't say that, but that's just how you feel when you go somewhere and you have a friend that's down, or someone that you hardly know, and you want to listen to them, and you try to do things to be a positive influence on their life, then you might want to be a police officer. If you just got picked on whenever you were a kid, and now you want to be a police officer, it's probably the wrong reasons. Now, some of the background stuff that I talked about, when I went through the process for LAPD, I scored so highly. How did I do that? Well, I had a military background. And, if you've watched some of my other videos, you know how highly I think of the military. But think about what you're doing when you're looking for a job in the military, as a police officer. You're not really in a position where you are doing something that you're not really in a position where you're doing something that you don't need experience. We're just going to start you out in our, law firm, and you can do paperwork, and we'll show you how to do it. I mean, you're out there dealing with all of these things and putting yourself and the city and the department in jeopardy. So a lot of times, if you're going and you're applying for a job as a police officer, they look on your resume and say, man, this person's been in the military. He understands discipline. He understands following orders. I keep saying he, but he or she understands all the aspects of that kind of lifestyle. So I would always recommend that if you are truly looking for a opportunity as law enforcement, that you would consider going into the military, at least for a couple of years. And then after you get out, then you can start applying for positions as a police officer, and it'll give you an upper hand. You don't have to have it, but I promise you, if two people or equal skills, they feel equally as comfortable with both, they're going to choose the person who has the background that they're looking for. So that's about all I wanted to say about law enforcement. If you want to talk to me some more about my experiences, not only as a sheriff's deputy, as a corrections officer, in the military, jump on Blackboard, come into my class, which is at 12:30 Eastern time, Monday through Friday. Give me a call, text me. We can discuss it until school lets back in, and we can discuss it. So anyway, for Job Corps, this is Petty Officer Romero. I hope you enjoyed the video, and look forward to the next one.
Tell me what you gonna do, what you gonna do.